I don't believe that there is a problem in this world that cannot be solved by more people knowing exactly what to say. Now, I'm happy that somebody can argue with me on that, but I believe it. What I've learned to be true is the loud ones are not the ones that win biggest. One of my favorite phrases on the planet is that the second mouse gets the cheese. I believe that every human being should always be working on their future resume. And if you cannot rewrite your bio or your resume every 6 months, you're not moving quick enough.
My guest for this episode is Phil M Jones. Phil is the best-selling author of 7 business books and 1 gorgeous children's book. He started his first business at just 14 years of age and is the youngest recipient of the British Excellence in Sales and Marketing Award. A sought-after advisor to global brands and the creator of the most listened-to non-fiction audiobook of all time, he's a firm believer that almost every problem could be prevented or solved if more people just knew exactly what to say. I first met Phil several years ago when we were both speaking at a sales conference, and his content was world class, so I immediately went out to buy his book and discover more about his approach. I've had the pleasure of seeing him speak several times since, and every time we've had the opportunity to chat, I've been blown away by his generosity and his desire to help and share. He's a sales and pitching master, so you're in for a real treat. If you enjoy what you hear, please leave a review, like, comment and subscribe. It would mean the world to me and will help this podcast reach as many people as possible. You don't want to miss this. Enjoy. Phil, welcome to the show. You're a serial entrepreneur, a best-selling author. You've got your own Audible original series. You're a speaker who's open for the likes of Tony Robbins. But what's your story? As a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up? Did you always have this kind of vision to be out there and making a difference in people's lives?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess I've been asked this question a number of different ways on a number of different interviews. But if I'm to try and summarize what I've always wanted to be, it's I've always wanted to be better at whatever it is I was doing. And when I look back at earlier childhood or time in school, etc., is I wanted to apply myself, and everything to me was a challenge. Like I loved sports, I loved drama. I actually really enjoy music, but in all of these things that I enjoyed as a kid, I realized very quickly that as much as I wanted to be better, in many areas I hit my optimum performance way earlier in life. Like I am terribly musically talented, and I became very aware at 8, 9, 10 years of age that this is not going to be a path that's going to bring much reward. And then same with sports, right? I loved sports, and I was like captain of the B team of football, soccer, and I loved that stuff. But I realized like I just didn't have the juju or the talent, like what I could bring in hard work and effort and energy and leadership and collaborativeness with the team, etc. It got me way past my levels of competence and performance. But I tapped out. Like I got as good as I was ever going to get, 11, 12, 13, 14 years of age. Nothing more for me to be able to do here. And I knew that what I wanted to do with my life was to build on the really amazing, solid foundation my parents had created for me. Is my parents had worked very, very hard, moved in some areas. Dad hustled 6, 7 day weeks in order to be able to get us into an area we can get to a good school, etc. And what I wanted to be able to do was to say thank you for that by going on to achieve another level of success within the family of name, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. I knew I didn't want to do the traditional university route of go get a good degree to get a good job. That job's going to serve you for life, etc. And I was fascinated by entrepreneurship. I think I remember reading maybe Richard Branson's autobiography at 12, 13 years of age. I remember watching season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Dragon's Den in the UK and be inspired by not the people pitching the ideas, but the judges. Like, those people there that are making the investments, those are the ones that intrigue me most. Like how did James Caan get to be James Caan? And what did Deborah Meaden get to do to be Deborah Meaden? And then this Peter Jones guy, he sounds a lot like me. I mean, we share the same first initial and last name. Like we got a lot in common already. What can be done to be able to explore that journey? And this fascinated me to have a remarkable curiosity around other people's successes.
Yeah.
So I would be open to any version of anybody else's success, but I want to dig into the facts. Like, how did you get to be you? How do you do what you do? What does it take in order to be able to get to that? And I've been this relentless quest of better in other people's worlds to see if I can build role models out of Frankenstein's monster parts of other people's careers and lives. And I believe that what I wanted to be was like a big entrepreneur or a leader or a CEO of a giant organization, etc. And I was on the track to be able to do many of those things. I mean, youngest sales manager for Debenhams department stores, head of retail inside DFS Furniture Group, turning around stores there. I work with Birmingham City and Leicester City Football Club in their retail department, licensing department, looking to be able to grow the commercial side of professional sport. Took a more senior role in a smaller company as a business partner in a overseas property company, building a big brand there. Thought we were driving towards an exit, and that took us to 2008. Right, I've got this resume of sales leadership, sales growth, sales success, and in 2008, that business hit a big bump in the road. Because we had a product that was great on a Monday, but by a Friday, that product we couldn't give away. Everything had turned against it. All the markets had turned against it. You know, overseas investments in freehold real estate were not a hot topic to be looking to find buyers for in 2008, particularly when they were underpinned by the Greek economy, which, if anybody remembers, Greece 2008, 2009 was not known for its financial stability. So wondering what I wanted to do next is I kind of had a fast forward. I'd listened to Jim Rohn tapes and Zig Ziglar tapes, and when I say tapes, I mean I had a cassette player in my car, and I had the 8-deck cassette discs of tapes and then CDs of these sort of wonderful thought leaders and pioneers and speakers. And I thought, one day when I'm old and grey, I'd love to be able to do that. Find myself at a crossroads of what do I do next in my career, start looking at things like coaching models, franchise models. How do I step into the training, personal development space so one day I can be a speaker? And I thought, sod it, why don't I just back myself? And I was being asked by small business networking groups in that 08-09 period to share short 15, 30-minute presentations with their members about how they could find more customers or get more from the customers they already got. I was doing it for fun. And people would say, Phil, have you got more? And I said, yeah, sure, I think I do. I said, I think I could probably put a whole day program on. They said, great, I'd be interested in that. They said, will it cover this? And I said, yeah, it will. And then I wrote that thing down. And then when everybody else asked, will it cover blank? I said, yeah, absolutely. Then I wrote that thing down. And I delivered my first one-day sales training program in the UK, maybe 2009. I had 11 people in the audience paying £85 a head. And my goal was to build a coaching consulting practice off the back of that. And I would then speak anywhere anybody would let me speak, with a goal to be able to get people to my one-day workshop, with a goal to be able to get a handful of those to step into coaching and consulting and build a stable, could I replace my full-time income that I had from being a senior leader in a company with this little coaching consulting business. And everything that's happened from there has grown from those pretty humble beginnings. And you mentioned my Audible How to Persuade and Get Paid program that was Audible funding me to do a one-man show off Broadway. The
Amazing.
content of that one-man show was actually the same content of my one-day workshop that I delivered to 11 people at Bilsley Manor Hall outside Stratford-upon-Avon as my first sales workshop.
Are you still in touch with any of those people? Do they know they got
the
there
people
first?
that were in that one-day workshop?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we cross paths on LinkedIn, and we're probably still Facebook friends and those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah, they must be really kind of pleased that they were at the premiere, as it were, all those years in advance.
Something like that. I think we all do a lot of things, right? And a challenge that many of us have, and I find myself guilty of this even at points of time like right now, is we reach a level of success and then we stop doing the things that got us to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And too many people believe like it's one big pitch that gets you to the opportunity, that then you find this new level and you just get to live at that level for the rest of time. And I've learned that it doesn't work that way. So you're continually in play, and you're either growing or you're shrinking. You can't stand still,
Yeah.
and that's exhausting, but also rewarding.
And yeah, part of the fun, presumably. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be doing it. You can always choose to do something else.
You've got it.
Talk to me a little bit about those early jobs, because there'll be people listening to this podcast who, you know, are maybe in those early management roles, or just beginning out in their careers. You climb that ladder very, very quickly. You know, you achieved a lot of success early on. Have you been able to identify what it was that you were doing that meant that people would back you, that would give you that springboard to the next role and the next role?
I think there are two or three things, and I've had the chance to think about it, which is why I can perhaps be quite concise with this. Is firstly, I would really work very hard. I had a mindset that said, I'll do it and then you'll pay me, not pay me and then I'll do it. So I'd always do more than what the job would ask of me. Secondly, is I would be mobile. I'd go take the job that nobody else wanted to have, because it would give me the chance to be able to get a new resume point. I believe that every human being should always be working on their future resume. And if you cannot rewrite your bio or your resume every 6 months, you're not moving quick enough. So in my early career, is if I wanted to get a promotion to step into something bigger, and I was working in Hounslow in West London, and the opportunity for my next promotion was in Leith, which was the outskirts of Edinburgh, in a new store environment that they were struggling to be able to find experience management for. Like, I'm like naming hat for that, because guess what? If I can fish in a pond where I'm one of one, willing to go and do something, there's a strong chance that I might win the job. If I try to be able to get the cushy, cozy number too early in a career, then what happens is you look like you're in it for yourself. So being in it for the needs of the greater good, being prepared to take the roles that other people didn't want, meant that what you had was the backing of others to say, hang on, this guy's in it for us. This guy's prepared to play the long game. This guy's prepared to be able to put himself second, so that what can happen is that you get indebtedness within the relationships that you go on to better serve. So I think, hard work, doing more, being prepared to be geographically mobile. And then the other thing was to be continually moving at a pace that means that nobody could ever put me in a box. And what do I mean by that is, in society, we love to label people. Even in the speaker world, right, which both of you and I cross across, is people like, he's a leadership speaker and he's 2,500 pounds. We want to be able to organize our network in a way that says we understand that person and the role that they could play in our life or in the life of others, and they're going to live in that box until anything changes. What I've been able to do, and will continually encourage everybody to do, is to keep moving quickly so that it's very difficult for people to understand or put you in a box. That's what allows you to be able to continually reinvent. Don't let anybody put you in a box, because otherwise that's the box you live in for the rest of your life. And if too many people know you as that, like, you've got people in your social circle, you're like, yeah, he's a great local plumber. He's 150 quid a day. And that's been said so many times that becomes your life resume for the next 30 to 50 years. And we see people like that right now that never change that number because that's what they were known for, never change what it is they do because that was what they're known for, and they couldn't shake that reputation.
So you've got a reputation, a kind of brand, if you like, built around this idea of exactly what to say, and I can see exactly. I can see exactly what you're doing in terms of reinventing that brand continually and kind of keeping it moving. What's been the most important thing apart from speed in growing that brand to what it is today?
Giving it away to others and allowing them to feel like it's theirs as well as mine. And one of our brand icons that we have at Exactly What to Say, somebody I look up to and aspire to. And when I talk about modeling and who I can learn from, sometimes I do this from brands. The brand that I have huge aspiration towards being able to grow like is the brand of Tabasco sauce. I know you didn't expect that one to be coming.
I didn't,
but
no.
Is Tabasco are on gazillions of tables in tens of thousands of restaurants all around the world. Never stealing the show, always there, always reordered. Never looking to be the hero of the plate of food, often being the difference that turns a good plate of food into a great plate of food. And that's what we try to do with the Exactly What to Say work, is we're not looking to steal the show. We're looking to be a highly valued condiment to other people's brilliance. And I think that alone is what allows it to be able to continually grow, because it's not structured and rigid like other people's programs are, where it has to win too much of the equity, or it directly conflicts with somebody else's something. It doesn't have the utility to be universal. Whereas creating universal methodology is, I think, what allows something to be able to grow quickly. My more practical applications of learning methodology, etc., that we aspire to grow like are things like disc profile.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is so simple, so clean, so clear, so universal that there isn't a team, a business, an organization, or a family that couldn't benefit from understanding the disc profiles of the stakeholders that live inside that group of people. And the belief we've got to with all things in Exactly What to Say is, I don't believe that there is a problem in this world that cannot be solved by more people knowing exactly what to say. Now, I'm happy that somebody can argue with me on that, but I believe it. I really believe that whatever problem is existing in somebody's life right now is, if you knew more about how you could approach that conversation, there's a strong chance you could influence it in the direction that you would like to. And we just have 4 core principles. We have: the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. The curiosity is the fuel to great conversation. That people do things for their reasons and not yours. And it's the person who's asking the questions that's in control of the conversation. Can you see, like, those 4 principles could help you approach your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your team, your relationship with your customer? And I think when we think about pitching, we live in a world now where people think pitching is a monologue. Mm. People think the art of being great at sales is that he or she has the gift of the gab, is they have the ability to wing it. They always happen to be able to, have all the right words. They have the confidence and the persona that goes with this stereotypical sales professional. What I've learned to be true is the loud ones are not the ones that win biggest.
Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases on the planet is that the second mouse gets the cheese. And it takes a moment of thought to understand why that's such an intelligent phrase, right? Because it's easy to be the first one in and the bullish one, etc. But in that environment, that has you, a little worse for wear.
Yeah.
And I'll let you chuckle along with that, because I think the real intelligence in that phrase, though, is it's the second mouse, not the third. It's not saying don't come first. Mm-hmm. It's saying come second. And I think in a pitch environment, that's exactly where you want to be. You want the other person to say, I want that, I want you, I want this. And then you're the one that says, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
That's the dance that we're looking to be able to play. So with that being said, in every pitch environment, when you're looking for something, remember the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're going to say it. So how ready are you for that conversation ahead of time? How predictable could be the known objections that present themselves in that conversation? What can you do to be able to navigate that conversation? One of the greatest things that I've seen as a sales training that's never been presented as a sales training before is the movie 8 Mile with Eminem. There's a rap battle scene in that movie, if you're not familiar with it, where the Eminem character is concerned about being trash talked as a result of what his mum was up to at the weekend and who his girlfriend hung out with as opposed to him and how he grew up and what his housing conditions were. And so concerned about all of those things that the other person could use to trash talk him, what did he do? He put it out there up front, controlled the narrative, left the other guy lost for words, created mic drop moment, won the rap battle. Aren't we all in the business of helping to control the narrative to win the rap battle? And in every pitch environment, if you know there is something that somebody could say against you that influences your case negatively, wouldn't it make sense that you put that elephant in the room? Because if you put the elephant in the room, you can control the elephant. You can ride the elephant, dress the elephant, explain just how pretty the elephant is. And this is what too many people miss. They find themselves in moment of friction in pitch environments, and they say, I didn't see that coming, even though they knew it was coming. They behave like they didn't see it coming. And curiosity is the fuel to great conversation because it earns you context. Helps you understand the world that the other person is living in. Means that what happens is you can show somebody that you know them. We used to think that pitching was features and benefits, but if you try and sell somebody on your solution, they'll work to say that you don't have the problem. If you show somebody you understand their problem, they'll trust you with the solution. So we have to do that work so that we can show up with the right levels of curiosity to earn their context. And when I say that people do things for their reasons and not yours, it's because I believe that you should never, ever, 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 ever look to give advice to anybody about anything unless you can say these words first. And the words you should look to say first are the words because of the fact that you said. Because of the fact that you said blank, blank, and blank, for those reasons, I'd recommend you do blank, blank, and blank. And that is a remarkably simple framework to deliver in theory and particularly challenging framework to deliver in practice because you have to collect the blanks.
Yeah. There are so many parallels with what you're talking about there, with the process of the actor and the idea of kind of preparation. And it's always fascinating to me how little people in business rehearse. How little time is spent not thinking as well. Thinking is different from rehearsal. Rehearsal is the act of actually speaking things aloud, is getting it into the body, allowing yourself the opportunity to mess it up and learn from that in the environment that is private. But also what you talk about there, which really resonates, is presence, because I think we can be so ahead of ourselves, thinking about what's coming next, looking to slot what we want to say into the conversation rather than sitting and being there in the moment. And when you see great actors, whether on stage or screen, they're not actually thinking about what their line is, what the words that are planned by the playwright or the screenwriter, what's coming next. They're actually in the moment responding to the cue that's just been given to them. That's where you see great performance versus kind of mediocre performance where people are just going through the steps. I love that. There's so much food for thought there.
I shared that first principle of REWTS work, which is the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment when you're saying it. And it's often received like it's a laugh line, like I'm joking. And I'm not joking. I'm for real. And the most important word in there is actually moment. That's what echoes on what you're saying here right now is it's not about learning our lines. It's about mastering the moments. So if you can decide ahead of time, what are the moments that matter on your field of play, on your stage of life, the moments that you're looking to influence, you're not looking to perfect your pitch. You're looking to be able to say, how do I serve that moment? And serving that moment means that you get ready for it. Some very basic brain science to understand is that people cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time. I repeat that they cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time. Those three functions are impossible to do consecutively. You can do any two, but that's still hard. Yet how many people find themselves in situations that what they're doing is thinking about what they're saying whilst they're saying it, whilst they're thinking about what they just said, and then wondering why they cannot show up present. It's because they cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time. Let's flip that in the other direction. How many times have you been in the audience of a presentation? And in that audience in the presentation, the speaker was speaking to you, was moving on the stage, pacing or walking or moving their hands in some way, and showing you a slide that was full of words. Your executive function said, I cannot listen, watch, and read at the same time. I cannot listen, watch, and read at the same time. I cannot do all three of these things, so you checked out. And I know you did, because I've seen faces of people in audiences more than most people would care to consider. You can do any two of those things. So what does that mean? It means if I want you to read, I've got to read with you. So there's nothing for you to watch so that you can focus on the screen. If I want you to listen, I can't distract you with your eyes to go somewhere else. You have to watch me and understand that you listen with your eyes at the same time. If you watch me, you're more likely to hear me. You can do any two of those three things. So if you cannot read, watch, and listen at the same time, and you cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time, you have to take the controllable out of that and say, which parts can I deal with ahead of time so that I can serve the moment more effectively, only by inviting the other person to do one or two of those three things.
That's really, really powerful stuff. In terms of creating the space and I suppose the rapport in the moment for that to happen, have you got any advice for listeners to not just get yourself in the zone, but to get your audience in the zone, whether that's the audience of one or the audience of many?
Rapport is often misunderstood. It's misunderstood because people think it's small talk, it's warm up, it's colloquial banter before we get to the thing that we are looking to try to be able to achieve. So there becomes a harsh line often for people, like, I'm in rapport, now I'm in discovery. Like, I'm warming the audience up, here's the presentation. And they put this harsh line between these two things. In reality, in any conversation or high stakes environment, and I'd say speaker on stage to audience is fairly high stakes. I'd say pitching for business is fairly high stakes. I'd say trying to bring up a puzzle with a loved one in your life that is a change in behavior is fairly high stakes. Is what the other person is likely to feel is threatened. So what is potentially going to happen is their cortisol levels are going to increase. They are going to engage some form of fight or flight, or they're going to engage some form of, like, I just want to distance myself with this and put a barrier up. In a presentation environment, that's often that the audience maybe sat back in their chair, body language goes to arms folded, and they're like, come on then, sunshine, show me what you got.
Show me. Yeah.
Right? In a one-on-one environment, that often looks like, let's sit back and lean in a chair and just reserve my body language back to a little, 45-degree slant backwards, shift my pelvis forward as often as far as I possibly can, and say, come on then, sunshine, show me what you've got, right? Like we have to deal with that ahead of time. So rapport is about creating context. It's saying, let's build a frame that says everything we're going to talk about next is worth it. That's what rapport should be doing, is creating a frame. What we're looking to be able to demonstrate in the environment is firstly curiosity, secondly empathy. The outcome that we're looking to create is trust. That's what moves people from to That's what moves people from shuffling back on their chair to reaching for a notebook and a pen and leaning in and saying, well, I should start to be able to pay attention. If trust is what you're looking to create, the math equation to get to trust is curiosity plus empathy. Curiosity earns you context, empathy makes you relatable. Now, in a one-on-one environment, I can question with curiosity to earn context. In a one-on-one environment, I can question with empathetic questions to get to a point of relatable. In a presentation or pitch environment, I need to fast forward that and show you that I understand your context. So what does that mean? That means me describing your world. So I'd instantly create context if I was looking to create it with Dominic right now, is I'd say, look, I know that you're doing a lot with this podcast and this environment to be able to level up the performance, to reach more great listeners, to showcase them how quality conversations can enhance how everybody delivers in any form of given pitching environment. And you'd be like, yeah, that's right. There's context, right? And what happens is instantly you're like, this conversation is for me. And then what happens is empathy gets triggered because we've hit the show me that you know me button. That's the goal we're looking to be able to get to, is to use context to create relatability, to use context to create relatability, to use context to create relatability. In a one-on-one conversation, we earn it with curiosity. We earn it with empathy. In a presentation environment, we do all that work ahead of time. We ask curious questions to understand their context so I can deliver your context. We ask empathetic questions in preparations so I can hit the show me that you know me button. And that's how we deliver it fast track. It is that easy. And that hard.
I love that. I think so many people think that they just need to turn up with the script, you know, the product, the service, the offering.
Let me walk you through our presentation.
Let me and it's an immediate killer, isn't it? In terms of people's desire to listen. You know, I think the thing that's so powerful about what you're saying is that it is always a conversation, even if you're the only one speaking, even if you are doing that kind of, you know, on stage conference piece, it's a dialogue. You have to have filled in the blanks for the audience in advance.
The way I view a big speech, Dominic, is it's not a presentation to an audience. It's not a speech to 1,000 people. It's a conversation with 1,000 individual people. It just happens to be at exactly the same time.
Yeah, love that. Love that. You've got a real passion for helping people and for getting people the kind of tools and techniques to be the best version of themselves. It's palpable whenever I've seen you on stage, when we're having this conversation right now. Why is this work so important to you? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? You've talked a little bit about the Tabasco, but that's the brand. What's the Phil M Jones piece?
I've met too many people in life that tell me their shoulda, woulda, coulda story. And as somebody who's traveled as much as I've done, I've sat alongside a good number of people that tell me their shoulda, woulda, coulda story all around the world. And in almost every one of their stories, there's an element of sadness. There's an element of lack of belief in themselves. And there's a high dose of regret. And that grates on me, because they couldn't find the voice inside themselves to try the thing that they knew that they wanted to be able to do at the time, because they didn't have the confidence. People misinterpret confidence because they think confidence is something you should just have. And if you have confidence without experience, what you actually have is arrogance. That's a very different thing. Confidence can only exist with experience, which means that confidence can only exist if you've done something a number of times before, so you have a predictable belief as to how this is going to work out. Right? The reason that Usain Bolt knew that he could run 9.86 seconds is because on the training ground, he had run 9.85 seconds and 9.87 seconds. And in fact, the last time he'd run over 10 seconds in 100 meters was a long time ago. Like, that's what brings a level of confidence, not I believe in myself, my self-talk is strong, etc. His confidence comes from experience. Now, what then gets missed in these folks is they don't learn that. And the only way you can fast track experience is borrowing other people's. That's what training is. That's what reading books is. That's what listening to speeches is. It's borrowed experience. It's third-party experience. It's second-hand experience. And if you cannot get your own experience in the timeline that you would have that's available to you, the fastest route to confidence in trying something is to go borrow other people's experience to enhance your confidence, to give you a little bit of a belief to be able to take the first step. That's why I do what I do. Like, people think that things like starting a business for themselves is impossible for them. Yet tens of thousands of people do it successfully every single year. They think it's impossible because they don't know the steps. Because they can't sit with somebody who can ask them the meaningful questions to assess the viability of their idea and whether this actually has the route to be able to go the distance. Yeah. People live in challenging situations with relationships with people they care about because they can't show up to the conversation and ask for the change that they want in this world, even though the other person would be remarkably prepared to make the change if they just knew that that was the change it was looking for and why that change was important. So there is so much misery that exists in this world because people don't know how to talk to each other. Or they don't know how to talk to themselves. So I'll make my work all the time I have air in my lungs, helping people have more meaningful conversations with themselves and others to unlock more of the potential that exists in them so that the world gets greater by the good people as opposed to the greedy, gregarious people.
Love that. Phil, it's been amazing talking to you, and I could sit here all day, but I want to wrap things up, and I've got a final question for you. In exactly what to say, you've got 23 phrases or sets of magic words, as you call them. What's the one that you wish you'd found early doors? Like, what's the one that's been most influential in unlocking things for you?
Well, firstly, let me share that they're not 23 sequences of magic words. They're 23 principles around influence and persuasion that are disguised as magic words. Yeah, it's a disguise. So what happens is I can have people trip over principles when I give them examples. If I teach them principles, they can't find any examples. So that's where the work came from. My perhaps most powerful set of magic words doesn't live in those 23. And it's the fact that it doesn't live in those 23, which is why it meets the I wish I found this earlier. And it lives in the expanded version of the book that we created as a commemorative, having sold 1 million copies of the book. It lives in that sort of hardcover, is a sequence of words that allows you to earn context remarkably quickly in situations you don't understand fully. Now, this happens a lot. What it's often replaced with, and the change we're going to introduce in a second, is it's often replaced with tell me more. Quite often people say, tell me why you did that, tell me more about that, tell me what you were thinking. When you reach for the words tell me, you're delivering what's called a command order, which is aggressive, which creates friction that often results in the other person jumping to blame, excuse, or denial. So if I said to a child in my life, I said, like, tell me what you were thinking, what do they jump to? Blame, excuse, denial. Tell me why you did that. Blame, excuse, denial. Yeah. Tiny little swap on this is to swap your tell me's for help me's. And when you say, hey, honey, like, help me understand why you decided to do that, what do I now get? Acceptance, explanation, responsibility. So take the moments in your life where you're looking to garner further information from people. Make it easier for them by asking them to do the one thing that everybody loves to do, which is to help people. And when you're looking for somebody to further explain themselves at any given point in time in your life, don't say, tell me more. Instead, reach for the words, help me understand. And watch how it moves you from being pushy to pulley, and watch how it adds a richness to the next conversation that follows on from there, where people share with you useful truth. And that useful truth can then help you shape whatever needs to happen next.
Amazing advice. Phil, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Huge pleasure. Keep up the great work, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you next time I'm back in the UK.
Thanks for listening to the Why Life's a Pitch podcast. If you'd like to improve the way you pitch and communicate, I'm giving away a special gift to all my listeners. We've developed the Pitching with Impact scorecard to help you benchmark your pitch performance in 6 key areas. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to complete, and you'll receive a detailed, personalised report packed full of insights and ideas to help you improve and grow. Just head over to dominiccolenso.com/scorecard to get started.